Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, His Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State. Ladies and gentlemen.
Comments from the Governor of Lagos State, Governor Babatunde Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, just welcoming viewers, welcoming everyone to the Lagos Economic Summit, Ehingbeti 2014. And there you see him giving up a round of applause. Some of the focus, the anchor points of this administration, he talked about transportation, agriculture, housing, some of the areas that he thinks that if they improve upon, with improved electricity, of course, it will be massive.
Well, it's been quite interesting, Chamberlain, that knowing full well that when we talk about Lagos State, we understand that Lagos State has more water than land, but they've been able to do a whole lot in terms of fresh foods, vegetables, as well as eggs. And well, for the transportation issue, it's very, very key, knowing full well that we have actually lost loads and loads of man-hours and manpower even in Lagos traffic. So when we talk about the construction of such bridges like the one connecting Lekki that has actually stopped, well, all of those times being lost going between one part of Lagos to Lekki from a whopping 30 minutes to 3 minutes. Chamberlain, that is quite, well, a big feat for the administration. And he also talked about the other one leading the Ajawa Estate area, which has actually cut traffic from 75 minutes to something less than 30 minutes. So these are some of the issues we should also look and key into. But again, the focus this time around is about power, electricity. And, well, quite an interesting moment here to note that the former president of Georgia is here, Mr. Mikhail Saakashvili, who's been able to solve the electricity problem of Georgia. We'll definitely be listening to him to hear what model he will be proffering for Lagos. And don't forget also Professor Batanaji is also here. And we remember a lot of people have said so many beautiful things, even when we are on our program on Sunrise Daily, that since the day he left the power sector, a whole lot, yes, we must really say that a whole lot has actually happened. Perhaps we should also ask him a couple of questions when it's time for him to speak on power. It's a key thing that is a national issue, to the extent that irrespective of your political party, your political leaning, we have come to agree that the power situation in the country is one that all of us collectively must fix.
Well, let's try to catch a glimpse of when the former president of Georgia will be on stage, because, yes, he's here. He's scheduled to speak in a moment. But, you know, part of the expectation of what they also talked about while you heard the governor, for those who missed it anyway, while they were looking for who will be the lead speaker in this conference, he did say they wanted somebody who we can relate with in terms of having been there and done that. Well, the former president of Georgia, we understand, the Lagos Commissioner for Economic Planning, Ben Akabweze, did say that Georgia once upon a time had it worse than Nigeria, but somehow they pulled it off. They pulled it off massively, and so he is an appropriate person to be here to speak on this matter.
Well, anyway, I think we're really, having a fantastic moment here. Not forgetting that actually we had a little hitch starting off this program because it poured in Lagos, and a whole lot of people actually didn't make it down to the venue early enough. But at least what you can see now, we have a full hall. But now, former President Mikhail Saakashvili, well, I think is about to come to the podium, and that's one of the youngest presidents ever in his time. And Chamberlain, I think, will just really can't wait to hear all of those templates he employed to helping and saving Georgia in his quest to solving the power problem.
So we're waiting, just as you are, to see what he's got to say. Let's catch up with a little bit of his introduction before he comes up. Let's take a look.
And received his Master's of Law from Columbia University. He studied law at the doctoral level at the George Washington University National Center of Law in Washington, D.C., and in 1995, he became the first former Soviet citizen to obtain a diploma in comparative law of human rights from the International Institute of Human Rights in Strasbourg, France, clearly an international citizen. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our distinct privilege to host such a man in Lagos, a man who powered Georgia as we intend to power Lagos, who saw a real opportunity to create endless possibilities, and he seized it. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me His Excellency, President Mikhail Saakashvili, former President of Georgia, as he takes us through powering Lagos, real opportunities, endless possibilities.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Mr. Governor, Babatunde Rajapaksa, SAN. Thank you for inviting me here. I took this invitation without hesitation because I know how interesting the processes that you are doing, you personally, Governor, as a reformer, and in a very, very challenging environment. Indeed, a few weeks ago, my mother also came to Nigeria for her own business. She is a professor. And she told me lots of stories about wonderful people that live here. I actually happened to study at the Kiev University in the end of 80s, beginning of 90s, and I had one of the best friends I had were from Nigeria. I had very good experiences with them in what was another system, another country. Well, I fully understand your challenges. I took over of a country in 2004 that was a failed state. That was, you rightly said, Mr. Governor, in worse conditions that you ever were in recent years. We should realize that in the 90s, Georgia was a world recordsman in terms of dropping of GDP. Our GDP dropped in 4 years or 4 or 5 years by 75%. Government could not supply, by the time we took over, 80% of the population with electricity. Not a single kilometer of road had been built for more than 15 years. Most of the cities had no water and sewage systems running or functioning efficiently. Some of them didn't have at all any systems. We had crime rate that was one of the highest in the world. And we had corruption rate, which was one of the highest in the world. So here we come with the group of young reformers, not knowing what to do, where to start. So we come in and people are burning tires in the streets, protesting against lack of light, shooting everywhere, people are shot, lots of criminality. And we had to do very fast reforms. And of course, we couldn't pay salaries. So first thing we did is that we committed group of young anti-corruption investigators and new tax collectors. We asked international organizations for money to pay as a cash for them to have salaries. And I was thinking to myself, if we could increase income of Georgia by 15% in 6 months, then maybe we could start paying other things. Well, we doubled tax collection within that 6 months. And then we started a comprehensive change of our several things. For instance, in 2 months into my presidency, we decided that it was hopeless to reform our Georgian police service, and we fired all of them. We basically, and so for 3 months, my country had no police force left. And you would be surprised, but crime rate didn't go up. And because it turned out that police was very much part of the problem rather than the solution. So what we did, we recruited entirely new people. We gave them, old policemen were not paid. In fact, they were paid to be employed as policemen. They had to buy their positions. They had to pay monthly bribe to their superior. Superior was paying to their superior and all the way up. And actually, we gave them salaries. We gave them new people, entirely new people. We gave them new equipment, new cars, new guns, new uniforms. And most of all, what we gave them, what this new system gave them, was respect of the people. Old police force had a confidence rate of 4%, which meant that they were universally hated and despised. The new one has, no matter who is the minister, no matter who is in the government, up to 90%, the most loved police. And actually, that was one of the main important. The other important reform was the reform of education. To get into university in Georgia, you had to pay bribe. You had to pay bribe to go from one class to another. You had to do other things. So the point was that we had to change the system. We introduced universal exams. We also changed the customs service and tax service. In Georgia, we had 27 taxes when I took over, and tax liabilities that people had in rear taxes was up to several $1 billion. First thing we did was tax amnesty. We forgave people liabilities for 2 to 3 billion taxes. But then we lowered the number of taxes down to 6 taxes. We lowered the tax rate overall the tax burden by 65%. We, for instance, brought down the VAT down to 18%. We brought we had social tax and income tax. We merged them. Then one was 30% and the other was 25%, and we brought them to 20%. And what we also did, we changed the whole system, how these taxes were collected. And actually, when we slashed taxes to number 6 and to when we lowered the tax burden by 65%, for the years of my presidency, tax collection, and that is to say state budget, went up 12 times. We had 12 times bigger budget, which is the index of legalizing economy and decrease corruption. And you should say that what country, what situations we were acting in. 70% of the country was controlled by separatists, which were very violent. We had terrorist attacks all the time. We were all the time under attack from Russia. In the end, in 2008, Russia fought war with Georgia, couldn't take over capital, but occupied the separatist-controlled areas. We came under full energy embargo from Russia. We were getting 100% of our gas and 80% of our electricity from Russia. One day, it all disappeared. We lost, in one day, the whole 70% of our export market. And when we stayed without Russian energy, we suddenly realized we had to cope on our own. So we had to refurbish the whole sector. It was a hard change, but basically by creating the base, first of all, killing corruption, because it looks like most of the electricity was just going, people were earning money on people not having electricity, on all kinds of schemes through which they were swapping electricity to Russia, to Turkey, and pocketing the money, and then generated by new facilities. Now the hydropower, for instance, the money put in the hydropower, FDI into hydropower, became the chief generator of economic growth in Georgia. Now we lost most of our export market, but the year after that we diversified and we had economic growth of 13%. And overall, in nominal terms, in 9 years of my presidency, we had first 4 years to double-digit growth. Then we had war and world economic crisis, so we had 3% contraction, but then we had 6, 7, 9, and 11% growth after that.